Get ready, because today I'm hateful, and I'm going to be talking about 5 specific plot devices that I cannot stand. By the way, my name is Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of Bad Parts, also the author of Entry Wounds, and welcome to my writing channel. One of my subscribers requested a video on plot devices, specifically ones that waste the audience's time or take away from a story. So I thought we'd talk about that today. I'm going to list out 5 specific plot devices that I just can't stand. I'm going to explain what they are, why I have a problem with them, and I'm going to give you an example of each. Now, just so we're all on the same page, what a plot device is, it's a moment or event that moves the story in a new direction. It can be big or small, it can happen at pretty much any point in the story, but what it does, it impacts your character and causes them to move in a different direction. And there are plenty of different things that can serve as a plot device. For instance, a medical diagnosis could work as one. If you have a character who finds out that they're terminally ill and they only have 7 days to live, that would be a plot device. It would force them to move in a different direction. Another example would be if one character asks out another on a date. Boy meets girl, boy asks out girl, then the girl says, yes, we'll go on a date, and then things shift. We have to worry about what's going to happen with that date next. There are tons of possibilities here, and there are a lot of good ones, but there are also a lot of cheap and lazy ones. And that's what brings us to today's video. Now, the first plot device that I hate is the convenient misunderstanding. This is when a character misinterprets something, and that misinterpretation causes them to go against their will. It's usually the result of bad timing. You'll have a character who overhears part of a conversation, and that part convinces them that something is very wrong when actually it isn't. If they had heard the entire conversation, they would know that there's nothing wrong at all. This plot device often creates a lot of artificial conflict. It oftentimes adds filler to the story. An example of this comes from the movie Shrek. And if you remember, toward the end of the story, there's that scene where Shrek is about to tell Fiona that he has feelings for her. And he goes to the cabin, he's about to knock on the door, and right before he does, he overhears Fiona having a conversation with Donkey. And Fiona is conflicted about the fact that she's part ogre. And she starts thinking out loud, she starts saying things like, who could ever love someone so ugly? Things like that. And Shrek happens to hear this part of the conversation, and he thinks that it's directed at him. And this conveniently timed misunderstanding causes Shrek to become upset. He storms off, then there's this artificial conflict between the two characters. They end up splitting up, they go their separate ways, until Shrek realizes that the whole thing was a mistake, and then he has to crash the wedding at the end. Second plot device that I hate is amnesia. Now let me be clear here. I don't mind amnesia if it's something a character is dealing with at the beginning of a story. Stuff like in The Bourne Identity or Silent Hill 2, where you have a character who's trying to remember who he is or remember what he did. That stuff is great. But the problem comes when amnesia is used as a cheap plot point in the middle of a story, and it's used in order to keep a character from achieving a goal or from passing along a key piece of information. That's when I hate amnesia, when it's there to waste the audience's time. An example of this comes from the TV series 24. And I'm a huge fan of 24. I love this show to death. But in the first season, there's this horrendous amnesia subplot involving the character of Terry Bauer, who is the wife of the main character, Jack Bauer. And what happens to Terry, she witnesses this car exploding, and she thinks that her daughter is in the car. And because she believes that her daughter is dead, she all of a sudden is struck with this incredible case of amnesia where she just forgets everything. She forgets who she is, where she was, what she was doing, who she was running away from. All these things are just out the window. And it ends up being this situation for several episodes where Terry just wanders around trying to remember who she is, trying to remember what she was supposed to do. And it all gets cured magically when she escapes another dangerous situation later on. She gets all her memories back, and it just ends up feeling like a complete and total waste of time. Third plot device that I hate is Deus Ex Machina. And what this is, it's when characters are in a dangerous situation, it looks like they're going to die, it looks like things are really dire, and then the writer hands them a get-out-of-jail-free card. The writer solves whatever problem the characters have by giving those characters some kind of special escape route or some kind of special ability that they never used before. And then all of a sudden they overcome their problems and everything is right again. And the issue here is that the characters don't solve the problem themselves. They don't use their minds or whatever resources that are available to face the problem. Instead, they just get bailed out by the writer. And there are tons of examples out there. For instance, at the end of Jurassic Park, when you have the T-Rex saving the heroes from the raptors, or at the end of Indiana Jones, when you have the Lost Ark destroying the Nazis, or in The Last Jedi, when Leia just magically gains the ability to fly. And the problem here isn't that she has a special ability, it's the fact that we've never seen it before, there was no real setup to it, it just comes out of nowhere. Fourth plot device that I hate is when someone instantly trusts a suspicious character. I'm sure you've seen this before. Oftentimes a protagonist will encounter someone who is meant to be an important character, and in order to speed things along, there's this instant trust between them, even when that new character is shady or strange. And the problem I have with this is that it just rushes a relationship, it rushes human interactions for the sake of just moving the story along at a fast pace. And an example of this comes from the movie Enchanted. And this is a pretty unique story. It's about an animated princess named Giselle who gets transported into the real world. And she ends up in New York City in this fish out of water scenario, and she stays completely in character as this fairy tale princess while she's asking everyone where her kingdom is, where her castle is, and so on. She runs around like a lunatic until the hero of the story and his 6-year-old daughter find her. And then they decide to help Giselle, which is totally fine, that makes sense. And you would think they would probably just drop her off at a police station or a hospital or a homeless shelter, but no, here's what happens. The hero decides to take Giselle back to his apartment where his 6-year-old daughter lives. And this is just way too trusting. You just met this woman who speaks and acts like no other human being on earth, and you're gonna let her stay under the same roof as your 6-year-old daughter? No, that's ridiculous. This is a case of the writers forcing the characters together. And the thing is, you could still have this story work if you drop Giselle off at a shelter somewhere, and maybe you have a situation where the hero gives her his business card, and then the next day maybe she tracks him down, and you build the story from there. And the fifth plot device that I hate is the death trap. I'm sure you've seen this one before. It happens whenever the villain captures the hero, and instead of just killing the hero, which is what the villain wants, instead of just killing the hero, the villain decides to place the hero in a room or some kind of contraption or whatever it is, and create this ridiculous or careless scenario where the hero can escape. And then the hero lucks out and finds an escape route, or someone rescues the hero, whatever it is. And as for examples, you'll see this plot device a lot in action movies and spy thrillers. James Bond especially, I think the most notorious examples come from James Bond movies when Bond gets captured and then the villain steps out of the room while he's captured and then James Bond finds a solution, or James Bond bluffs the villain in order to get out of the death trap or whatever it is. But these death traps appear in a lot of different movies, and every time I see them I can't help but think less of the villain for hesitating to kill the hero. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: what lazy plot devices do you hate the most? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of either one of my books and be sure to leave reviews on Amazon. Bad Parts is great if you like small town horror. It's about people trading away their sick and injured body parts in order to get healthy again. And then Entry Wounds is great if you like thrillers, and it's about a guy who picks up a haunted gun and he cannot put it down until he kills 6 people with it. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe, and as always, remember to keep on writing.